In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to crochet the spiked cross stitch. This stitch is really beautiful. It is fully reversible, so this is how it looks on the front, and this is how it looks on the back. It looks awesome if you change colors as I have for this sample, but it also looks great in just one single plain color. A fab stitch for blankets or any squishy wearables. It really is a beautiful and surprisingly simple stitch to create. To begin, pop a slip knot onto your hook. Now the pattern multiple for the spiked cross stitch is a nice simple one. It is just 3. So all that means is you're going to chain in multiples of 3, 3, 3, 3, 3 until your project is the width that you want it to be. I'm just making a small sample today, so I'm going to go ahead and chain 18. Once you have your chains in a multiple of 3, for row 1, we're going to begin by working into the second chain from our hook. Now the loop on your hook does not count as anything. You only want to count these fully formed chains hanging down below. So 1, 2, and into that second chain, it doesn't matter which part of the chain you go into, just whichever part you're most comfortable with, we're going to work a single crochet. So single crochet into the second chain from the hook. Then we're going to single crochet into every single chain all the way along this row. So one single crochet in each chain all the way to the end. For row 2, we are not going to chain, we are simply going to turn our work. This is another single crochet row, and if you want to have this same color change look as I have for my sample here, we're going to change color at the very end of this second row. So no chain, you've turned your work, and we are going to immediately work a single crochet underneath that very last stitch of the row below. So straight in there and just work one single crochet. Then work one single crochet into every stitch all the way until this very last stitch where we will change color. So just one single crochet into the top of each of the single crochets that you made in the row below. Row 2, a nice simple one. So I've worked my way all the way across, working one single crochet into the top of each of the single crochets from the row below. And in this very last stitch, I'm going to work one single crochet, but I'm also going to change color at the same time. So I'm going to start by just placing my hook underneath both loops of that last single crochet. You may need to rotate your work around to find it. Draw up a loop. Then when I have 2 loops on my hook, I'm going to drop the color I'm currently working in and bring in my next color. Then with my new color, I'm going to leave a long tail for weaving in. I'm going to just put that over my hook and draw it through those 2 loops to change color. Then you can go ahead and trim off your old color. Again, leave a nice long end for weaving in afterwards. For row 3, again, do not chain, just turn your work. We're going to start row 3 with a stacked double crochet stitch. So working straight into that last stitch that you just made, put your hook underneath, draw up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. You've created a single crochet. Then go into this front vertical bar of that single crochet. Just put your hook underneath that bar, yarn over, pull through, and then yarn over, pull through both loops. So you've created one single crochet on top of another single crochet. That is our stacked stitch. If you want to mark the top of that stitch with a stitch marker, you can. So it's the top of that single crochet that you made on top of the single crochet that you're marking. This end may be a little loose purely because of that color change, but if you pull that down, there is the top of your stacked double crochet stitch. So we've started with one stacked stitch. That stacked stitch counts as our first double crochet. Now skip one stitch and work a double crochet into the next 2 stitches. So 1 and 2. So we have our stacked stitch, a skipped stitch, then 2 double crochets worked into the top of the next 2 stitches. Now this row, row 3, is the trickiest row of this entire pattern. It can be a little bit frustrating and a little bit tricky and a little bit finicky, but please trust the process. Do not get too frustrated. Once row 3 is out of the way, it will be plain sailing, I promise. Your spike stitches will be really easy to spot where we put them. It's just this is the trickiest row. Please just bear with it. So looking at your work, we have the row we're currently working on. We're working into the top of the single crochets from row 2. And then at the bottom here, we have our single crochets from row 1. You can identify your single crochets by these 2 little V's. Those are the legs of your single crochets. We have one here, here, here. They're little V's forming these little stitches. Find your first single crochet from row 1. It's here. Then pull your work apart a little bit. This here in between your first and second single crochet, that little tiny gap is where we are going to work our first spike stitch. It's underneath the stitch that we just skipped. So working under here, 2 rows down, that little hole. I find it easiest to find that first single crochet and just pull my work apart a little bit. That is where we're working our first spike stitch. And to work your spike stitch, it is just an elongated double crochet. So yarn over, put your hook into that space in between. There isn't an actual space, you're making the space in between the first and second single crochets of row 1. So reach right down and in, put your hook out the back, catch the yarn, bring it up, and keep bringing that loop all the way up until it is the same height as your double crochets. So you can see I've pulled that really far through. Then when you are right back over in line, we can work off these 3 loops. So yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So you've just made a really long double crochet. Keep these nice and loose. If you try to do them too tight, your work will all crunch up. So keep them nice and tall and nice and loose. Now we're going to skip a stitch. You can see here we've worked a double crochet into that stitch behind. We've now covered it up with the spiked cross stitch. So skip a stitch and work 1 double crochet into the next 2 stitches. 1 and 2. Now going back down to your first row, count from where you did your first spike stitch. I'm going to count these single crochets. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. We're skipping 3 of those and then pull them apart and work a double crochet spike stitch into that stitch there. So you have your first one in between 1 and 2. Then we're going to count 1, 2, 3, skip 3 of these single crochets and work another double crochet spike stitch back. So we're working into the gap. 1, 2, 3, into that gap, pop your hook, pull up the yarn, Keep pulling it up till it's nice and tall, nice and loose. Then complete your double crochet as normal. Skip a stitch and work 1 double crochet into the next 2. And again, go back down to row 1 and count your single crochets from the point at which you did your last spike stitch. 1, 2, 3, skip 3 and work your spike stitch down into that bottom row. So I'm just pulling up my yarn nice and tall, keeping it nice and loose, and I have 3 single crochets in between my spiked double crochet stitches. I promise it gets easier. Bear with it. We're going to keep doing this across the row. Skip a stitch and work 1 double crochet into the next 2 stitches. 1 and 2. Then go back down to row 1. Find where you did your last spike stitch and count 3 single crochets. We're skipping 3 of them. 1, 2, 3. And work a spike stitch all the way down and in. Keep doing this across the row. Skip a stitch, 1 double crochet in the next 2, 1 and 2. Then skip 3 single crochets from row 1 and spike stitch down and in between. 1, 2, 3, spike stitch. Once you have made it all the way across, you will have 1 stitch remaining of the row. To end row 3, work 1 double crochet into the top of that very last stitch. Oops. Try not to catch all the bits of yarn. There we go. Row 3, the hardest, most frustrating row, is complete. From this point on, I promise this stitch is worth it and it gets so much easier. For row 4, do not chain, simply flip your work, turn it like the page of a book. I'm going to work 1 single crochet into the top of that double crochet stitch from the row below, and then 1 single crochet into the top of every single stitch all the way across. It's a nice, simple single crochet row. So just 1 single crochet into the top of every single double crochet that you made from the row below, including your nice elongated cross spike stitches. As you approach the other side of your work, work 1 single crochet into the top of your stacked stitch. I'm also going to change color at this point. I'm now going to be changing color every 2 rows, and we change color exactly the same way as before. Begin your single crochet with your current color, bring in your new color, leaving a nice long end for weaving in, and pull that through to complete the stitch. Then you can cut off your old color and you're ready to begin row 5. Now row 5 and row 6 are the pattern repeat rows. So these next 2 rows are the rows you repeat over and over and over again until your project is the length that you want it to be. So for row 5, we are going to begin again with a stacked stitch. So do not chain, just turn your work, and into the top of that last stitch, we work 1 single crochet, and then we work another single crochet into that front vertical bar. So just place your hook underneath the vertical bar of that single crochet and make another single crochet. Then you can mark the top of that stitch. If you can. Ah, there we go. Then skip a stitch and work 1 double crochet into the next 2. So skip a stitch, 1 double crochet into the top of the next 2 stitches, 1, 2. And then we are going to be doing our cross spike stitch again, only this time we now have a nice gap already formed to work into. So where we skipped the stitch on row 3, that is where you are going to be working your spike stitch. We have nice clear gaps all the way along the row now, which speeds things up and makes it vastly more easy to see where you're working into. So straight into this gap in between those first 2 stitches from row 3, right in there, we work our cross spike stitch. So it's just a double crochet, reach all the way back into that space, draw up a loop, and keep drawing it up until it's nice and loose and the same height as your current stitches. Then work off your double crochet as normal. So we're just working into the gap formed by skipping stitches. Then working across the rest of this row, skip 1 stitch and work a double crochet into the next 2, 1 and 2. Then reach back and down into the next space below. It's nice and obvious. I can stick my finger right through it. And we're going to work a spike stitch right down into there. So just yarn over, go down in there, catch the yarn at the back, bring it all the way up, bring it up nice and tall. Then complete your double crochet as normal. And we work this across. Skip 1 stitch, double crochet into the tops of the next 2, 1 and 2. Then reach back and down into the next space 2 rows below where you skipped a stitch, and we work our spike stitch. So just yarn over, go straight down and in, catch the yarn at the back, bring it all the way up, nice and tall, and complete your double crochet as normal. Work this all the way across the row. Skip 1 stitch, double crochet into the next 2, 1 and 2. Then spike stitch back down across your work. Bring it up nice and tall and complete your double crochet. Skip a stitch, 1 double crochet in the next 2, 1 and 2. Then spike stitch all the way back down and across your work. And at the end of the row, at the end of row 5, you will have 1 stitch unworked. Into that stitch, work 1 double crochet to end row 5. This one is a tight little one. You need to rotate your work around. And that is row 5, the first of these 2 pattern repeat rows complete. Way easier than the first time you did it, right? It's this easy going forwards. Then for row 6, we are going to turn our work, do not chain, and just work 1 single crochet into the top of every single stitch from the row below. Row 6 is a nice easy one, just single crochets all the way across. And again, I will change colour in the very last stitch of this row. So in the top of my stacked stitch here, this is where I will change colour by dropping the current colour I'm working with and bringing in my new. Trim off your old colour, leave nice long ends for weaving in, and from this point on we are simply going to be repeating rows 5 and 6 over and over and over. I'll do a really quick recap of row 5 and 6 for you now. To start row 5, which is we're going to be repeating that again, the first of these 2 pattern repeat rows, turn your work, do not chain, and work a stacked stitch straight into this first stitch here. So 1 single crochet and then another single crochet worked into the front vertical bar of that stitch to create your stacked stitch. Then skip 1 stitch, work a double crochet into the next 2, 1 and 2, and then we are going to spike stitch down 2 rows down into that nice little gap that is waiting for you from the skip stitch from the row 2 down. So we just double crochet down and across into that gap, then skip 1 stitch, double crochet into the next 2, 1 and 2, and spike stitch across and down into that gap, keeping your spike stitches nice and tall. Work this all the way across the row until you have just 1 stitch remaining. Then to end this row, we end with 1 double crochet into the top of that very last stitch. Then we repeat row 6 again. So you turn, you do not chain, and we're just going to work 1 single crochet into the top of every single stitch along the row. At the end of row 6, we work 1 single crochet into the top of that stack stitch from the row below. If you're changing colours, this is the stitch in which to do it. Or if you have reached the end of your project and it is the length that you want it to be, complete your single crochet in the same colour, chain 1, cut your yarn, leaving a nice long length for weaving in, pull that up, out, pull it tight, and your project will be complete. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Please do let me know what you think of this cross spike stitch down in the comments section. And until next time, happy crocheting. Bye.